Recording.
It's a great pleasure to introduce our guests for this webinar. First, Venerable Thubten Chokyi, who's Vice President and Spiritual Advisor for Sakyadhita Australia, and also Chair of the Australian Sangha Association. Have I got that right, Chokyi?
Yes.
Good. Then we have Suzanne Franzway, a previous president of Sakyadhita Australia and emeritus professor at the University of South Australia, and Sharon Thrupp, who's the organiser of the Victorian Pilgrimage. She's the director of Ekno Travels and also treasurer of Sakyadhita Australia. So let's begin by bringing you all in and ask, what does pilgrimage mean to you? First to Chokyi.
Well, I guess I've done quite a few pilgrimages, so I'm obviously a devotee of pilgrimage. Uh, from the time of the Buddha said to do pilgrimage to holy places, not so much to big note himself, of course, but because of the development of our spiritual practice through going to places like my teacher Lama Zopa Rinpoche would call them power places. And I was thinking about this in relation to Australian context of Indigenous sacred sites as well. They're places where there's certain energy, certain power that, sort of really draws people to them, but also is a place of gathering for spiritual practice and to enhance our spiritual practice. So it's not particularly necessarily just Buddhist, as I might have mentioned, we have this in Bunbury coming up for our third year of pilgrimage here to all the places of worship around, so in the local area. Of course, sort of as a Buddhist, of course, going to those places in the footsteps of the Buddha, such as in India and Nepal and so forth, but other places like I'm just back from Borobudur and I've been there many times and don't seem to be able to get enough of going to Indonesia, which also has a connection. There's so many Buddhist sites there. Every time we go, I find out about more and more and more. And so throughout the world, there are many more really places of spiritual significance that we just learn more and more about. And
Indonesia is interesting because most Australians don't think of Indonesia as being or having any connection to Buddhism, and yet you're saying there are so many sites there.
many sites, like particularly like in Sumatra, we've been to Marajambi, which is an extensive temple complex that goes back to the 6th century, when they had an exchange with Nalanda in India and brought back all the teachings because of the trade routes. They were going backwards and forwards along the trade routes. And then in the Tibetan tradition, of course, Lama Atisha taking the teachings then from Indonesia, where he got them from his teacher, into Tibet as well. So there was this big trade route from South India through Indonesia, South China, and so forth. And every time I go, it's just like, oh, there's stupas all the way up there, and there's Taro temples, and there's Maitreya Buddha temples, and so forth. So it's very interesting, fascinating.
It's extraordinary. Suzanne, how about you? Why do you see pilgrimage as important? I'll just unmute you. Sorry.
So can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Look, it's really, I don't have this anywhere near the same kind of experience as Venerable Chokyi at all. In fact, but when I think about pilgrimages, I think of it very much, they're very much about place, aren't they? And sacred place. And I think the thing, I was fortunate enough to go on a kind of pilgrimage last year in China to a whole set of Buddhist temples in China and Buddhist sites. And the thing that struck me thinking about that is there's the place, and the place is made sacred by human beings, and you have that sense. I think we have it in Australia too, don't we, in relation to First Nation places, that there's place and there's time and there's human beings coming to these places. And for someone like me who lives in in a country which I have quite a short historical connection, the idea of pilgrimage to sacred and holy places, I think, is a really special is a really special thing. And so part of the reason why I was happy to, and very happy indeed, to be part of the Sakyadhita's proposed pilgrimage in March is precisely that, giving us the opportunity to some of us to be able to go to those sacred places that have been made sacred by Australian Buddhists. So I look forward to it in that way, yeah.
Yeah, and a bit like Ven Thubten Chokyi in Indonesia, China's not a place we actually associate, at least I don't associate with particularly many Buddhist sites. I think I've heard of some Buddhist caves. That's about all. But there's more.
Look, if you ever get the opportunity, it's truly fabulous. We went right far west, and then I think we came down south, and there are living, working monasteries and temples. And they tell me that, I mean, I know there's 1 billion or more people in China, but there are millions, not billion, but about 40 million Buddhists still in China. And that, I don't think that's counting Tibet. I'm not sure about that. But yes, and it's interesting too to see over the hundreds of years that Buddhists have been practicing at those sites. It's wonderful to see the art, the creativity. It's fabulous.
Can I just...
And you didn't go to Tibet?
No, we didn't. No.
Well, Helen,
Sorry, Sharon.
You've been to Mount Koyasan in Japan. I mean, that's a very special pilgrimage place, isn't it? You know, that's where Buddhism is practiced, and the whole town is made up mainly of monasteries. And so that's a very...
The whole island, Sharon.
No, Mount Koyasan.
Mount Koyasan. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that was all new to me. So I knew very little about Japanese Buddhism, and it was extraordinary to go to this island initially, which had 88 temples, and we only tried to get to walk to 12. We didn't really succeed, but we did our best. And it's just amazing to see the devotion and the absolute respect, but also the beauty, the aesthetics of the temples. They're just so lovely. And then, as Sharon said, we went up to Mount Koyasan, which is something of a memorial to the Japanese saint, and where he's buried. And again, it is just made up of these most extraordinary pavilions and temples. And we were lucky enough to stay in a temple, and it was just so beautiful, even though there were 4 of us sleeping on the floor in our bedroom, with the most beautiful toilets you've ever seen, I have to say. It was just wonderful. I mean, it had a gravel garden, it had a green garden, a water garden, and early in the morning and in the evening you could join the monks for their ceremonies. So it's totally new to me, and aesthetically and spiritually, I just loved it. And anyhow, moving on, I wanted to ask Chokyi.
Oh, okay, yes.
Well, I was going to ask you, Chokyi, when we're thinking of pilgrimage, which do you think is more important, the journey you go on or the place you get to? How does that add up?
Yes. I mean, historically, pilgrimage is about a journey. It's about a spiritual
Yeah.
journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, I was just going to mention that in Lama Zopa Rinpoche would talk about, places like Everest, and that people are attracted to these places. And he says it's because of the powerful energy of those places, but a lot of people don't recognize why they're attracted. So they think, oh, I've got to climb,
Yeah.
And, so there is that sense of the power of the place itself, and places that we gravitate towards and want to be in that energy. Like, for example, where Lord Buddha did 25 years rains retreats in Shravasti, where the air is just so exquisitely cool. And it's like that you go to some of the holy caves where great yogis have meditated, great masters have meditated in India or Nepal. And you just go in there and you want to stay there forever because the environment is transformed, the air is transformed. It's just so peaceful and calm. So there is that definitely the attraction of the place. But I think, and that's why I think it's important, for me anyway, to go on group pilgrimages, because it's also the journey together, and that you're all embarking together on a spiritual journey. You're all sort of like-minded, and whether you're doing prayers or whether you're having chai or whether you're having, conversation, it's having this shared journey, shared spiritual journey. I mean, if you look at the Christian tradition where they had the going on pilgrimage and you take a sack of sins, you could give people your sins that they could carry on their back for you. Now, I would love that, but I've been told in Buddhism it doesn't work that way. And our karma is our karma, so we've got to carry our own.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I think it works to be both. Of course, when you've got time on pilgrimage to be in a place and be there again and again, the power of the place just is very consuming, and you don't even have to be a person of faith to do that, or of a particular faith to do that. So yeah, I think it's the power of the whole journey itself, as well as the places. Sometimes the places are like just having been in Borobudur, where physically I find it very challenging because of those huge steps. And that itself is part of the process of, your sort of spirit of,
setting yourself a challenge.
Challenges, yeah, setting yourself a challenges and meeting that challenge, and with a good motivation, good purpose for doing that. There's a sense of achievement there as well.
I just have to tell everyone, particularly those who are coming on the retreat, that it is wonderful to go on a retreat with Venerable Chokyi, because we were recently, it wasn't officially a pilgrimage, but we were recently found ourselves in India. We meant to be in Ladakh, but we ended up doing a journey from Delhi to through Dharamsala to Amritsar. And Venerable Chokyi on the bus would have us chanting mantras. And I think we were contributing to something for the Dalai Lama for His Holiness's 90th birthday, Chokyi. It was great fun. We're all driving along, and I'm sure the driver appreciated all these blessings he was getting. So yeah, it's lots of fun. Whether there'll be time to do anything like that, Victoria's a lot smaller. We're not quite sure, but yeah, it certainly is amusing. And Jean, I see you're with us, but she was also on that trip, which was great fun. So yeah, I recommend doing a retreat with Venerable Chokyi. Hi, Jean.
So I know I look like Jean, but I'm actually Jeanne.
Oh, sorry.
Jeanne, good to see you.
My mistake.
That's okay. It's not a mistake. I missed the beginning of your meeting, so I apologize. So I'm not sure exactly who's there, but I just want to say hello. How lovely it is to
Hello.
see you all.
yeah,
and
yeah.
how much I'm looking
And
forward to this.
we're
Yeah.
really looking forward. I mean, I think everyone on the I think everyone on the call is going on the retreats, on the
Okay.
pilgrimage.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're all looking forward to it. I'm not sure about Christine. Are you coming, Christine?
Possibly. I'm just waiting on hearing about some arrangements next week, but I'm hoping to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, fingers crossed. We'd love to have you with us. Um, I suppose, Suzanne, pilgrimages are not just a Buddhist thing. It's sort of it occurs in every religion.
Mm.
Um, generally, is that something you can talk to?
Ah. The thing I could say, yes, it is something, isn't it, that people's have done as part of their like spiritual search, well-being journey for centuries. I was thinking one of the things to say, the thing about like being with others is it's like a retreat on the road in a way, isn't it?
Mm.
And
Yeah,
and one of the really no doubt seductive things about it too is to be out of your everyday life. So if you're on
yeah,
the road, and which is more and more of a challenge to us with the phone thing, but I think one of the benefits is precisely, in a kind of way, in a gentle way, shaking you up from the everyday life. And I think for me anyway, that brings the opportunities to have chances to try out seeing things in different ways. And as you're journeying, and with the challenges to the body, even the challenges of being with others, like it's not always a party, that is all part and parcel too of the experiences of that kind of travel. I'm of course aware that for women, it's also for women now, for us to be able to go on such privileges, such journeys, such pilgrimages is something we shouldn't take for granted either. That women, I don't think, have always been able to do these kinds of things safely, or with with enough resources to even be able to undertake such travels. I know the ones who have in the past. Historically, we admire deeply, but partly because they're so unusual. It is a wonderful thing that that most of the people who are going on this one are, we're able to do it safely and with good resources. And I think, some women should be able to do this too. So yeah, it's a benefit, isn't it? It's a
yeah,
and
yeah.
to be out of
That's
your
a great
everyday life,
point. That
don't you think?
we're we're very privileged, but also, Suzanne, it's also educational. I mean, you said that in China, or you told me that in China,
Yeah,
at each place you went to, you had a guide,
we did.
a local guide, who would tell you about the place, and that's what I found, that you actually learn so much.
Yes,
Um, Rather than wandering around on your own, it is
yes,
terrific
like
to have a
two.
guide.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the
Mm.
on the China trip, we went to we flew far west to the Crescent Lake, and I can tell a story about that. But can I tell that story actually? Shall I tell my Crescent Lake story or?
Yes, why not?
Okay. Okay. So here's my version of this story. There were three women in the 1890s, British Christians, Mildred and Francesca, and their friend Eva. Mildred and Francesca Cable. You may have heard of them. They were, dedicated Christian women in the 1890s. Anyway, the way I tell the story, so I tell it in a slightly lighthearted way, but that God said to them, they should, if they wanted to do good, they should go to China. So in the early 1900s, they traveled to China, and where they set up a sort of mission. They learnt Chinese, probably Mandarin. They translated the Bible in, and made it available to people. They had a lot, of course, to do with the women. Anyway, after about 20 years of that, after the First World War, God said to them, right, you should now travel. You should now go west, basically. And so in 1921 or something, they packed up and they travelled on horse and carts or bullocks and carts, mostly at night because of the weather. And what you could do is you would travel from one well to the next, 26 miles. They were 26 miles apart. And so there was a village or a family at each of those well sites to keep the wells, working. And each place they went, they'd put, little biblical tracks under rocks, or they would be taken in by the women in the village each night. And so I've got a couple of their books. And one part of it, they get right to the edge of the Gobi Desert. And they come to this place called Crescent Lake. And it's in amongst the sand dunes. It's this spring, and it's this Crescent Lake. And in the old book I've got, there's a black and white photo of this place with a stupa beside it. And I have to say they were a bit rude about some of the Buddhist caves that they went past at the time. But anyway, and then they went on and travelled on. Now, when I went on this tour last year, this pilgrimage last year, the first place they flew us to from Beijing was Danhuang. And then they said, right, now we're going out to this lake. And it was a Crescent Lake. And and it's still there. And it is the most beautiful, beautiful, it was fabulous. And it was, for me, yes, there was the sacredness of it. There was the 100 years before, those people had been there, and there it still was. Many people were there, but it was fine. It was the most wonderful thing. And that kind of thrill of making the connections with a number of layers and levels. And along the way at each place, like you say, some lovely person would tell us stories about, in 600 AD, 600 CE, somebody, these monks came there, or in 1100 they painted these caves, or in 1400 they built these temples. It was just, it was terrific. But the Crescent Lake,
as I said,
I
highlight.
Totally didn't expect to see it ever, because when I read it in the book, it just sounded like a fantasy, really. Yeah. And there it was, this beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And the stupa was still there.
Amazing. Yeah. Considering what's happened in China, that is amazing. We'll get on to looking at the details of this Victorian pilgrimage in a minute, but one of the pilgrimages, Venerable Chokyi, I remember you talking about, I think it was at one of our AGM, was the pilgrimage to Ladakh and Leh, which I think was particularly special for you. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, that was a few years ago that we went to Ladakh, Spiti Lahore. And I think the significance, like Ladakh, the other side of the mountain is Tibet, which I'm going to later this year. Very happy. That'll be my next one. Is just the history there of as Suzanne was saying, the very old temples with the artwork and so forth, but also the history of those who journeyed along from India to Tibet or Tibet to India, through that area, and established monastic communities, established sort of temples and so forth, practices, and the whole area is transformed by that. And then, of course, we didn't go to Tenzin Palmo's cave, but we're in the bus going, it's up there, it's up there. Because it's also looking at honouring modern, yes, there's this historical aspect, But there's also the modern masters such as Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo, and we know her story of, being in the cave for 12 odd years, plus years. And that then becomes also another sort of sacred site, if you like, through the power of the practice. And so while I also found it very fascinating that we'd be in these in these monasteries high up, and they'd say, look, in the hills, there's many yogis up in the hills, just in their little caves. And even like a couple of the monasteries we were in, where they had right at the top, where you could do like a 6-month solo retreat. And you've got to looking through a Western eyes, where I go, where's the toilet? where's the anything actually? No running water, no toilet, no nothing. And you go, wow, that's austerity, right? That's austerity. And I think a similar thing happened in India with, you go to Ellora and Ajanta caves. I mean, apart from the architecture, and you think, how did they, so many centuries and centuries ago, carve out of one piece of rock this architectural beauty, but you also look at how they just sort of slept on these slabs, these stone slabs. And it's really a whole other level of practice that I like to admire from afar and go back to the Hilton Cave or somewhere else. But I think, the other thing that I just wanted to mention is that one of my nun friends who's passed away, she had cancer, and she was told in the last years of her life to do lots and lots of pilgrimages, as which was as her spiritual practice. And often I don't think of, if somebody's really unwell, get them to do pilgrimage. It's more like, okay, do these practices and so forth. But and so right up until not so long before she passed, she was off doing pilgrimages, which was quite a sort of interesting thing too, the healing energy of that.
Well, how did she find that? How did she find it can be quite tough going on a pilgrimage. I mean, did she find it worthwhile?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, everyone was helpful and supportive and all of that sort of thing. And but yes, she was following her guru's advice, and so she followed the advice, and she was, I saw her about a week before she died. She lived in San Francisco, and she was just comfortable in her practice, and it was really wonderful to see. But yeah, I don't often associate pilgrimage with a place to go for healing. Although there is that history too. We've had all those people would go to particular resorts and so forth, wouldn't it be, for therapy, for treatment?
Well, I think that's more in the Christian tradition. I could be wrong. It might also be in Buddhism, but certainly in Christianity, people are going to these places where there was some sort of miracle performed or something like that, I believe, as a pilgrimage site. Is it something like that in Buddhism?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, you will recall that when we're in Amritsar and we went to the Golden Temple, and I was just like, I will not go in that water. Thank you very much. It might have healing powers, but it's also got a lot of other stuff in there. So I'm not going. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's there in different traditions, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we might hear some more of your stories, but let's take a look at what we're doing this March. Sharon, would you like to sort of give us an overview?
Sure, Helen. So at the moment, so we're going to kick off the pilgrimage with a celebratory 10th anniversary dinner, and Helen is going to invite a few people along, and maybe you can quickly.
Well, I'm just going to invite some of with Suzanne will be there, but also other past presidents and spiritual advisors and people who had a strong hand in the development of Sakyadhita. And hopefully they'll be there as well as the team doing the pilgrimage.
Great. Yeah. So the idea is that it starts. So the idea about the pilgrimage is that you arrive in Melbourne under your own steam, and we were going to put people mainly at the Mercure, which is and the restaurant that we're going to is, so the Mercure is going to be within walking distance from the restaurant, and so at 6 o'clock we're going to start. So that's kind of the official start, isn't it, Helen? At 6 o'clock on the 11th.
Yeah.
And so we'll gather there. I'm not sure. Are you in charge of that, Helen? We haven't really finalised all the details on that, but we'll just, get together and chat and have some nice food.
Well, hopefully it all comes together. We're going to have a banquet.
A
And,
banquet. Yes, yeah.
a banquet, yes. A vegetarian banquet, I hasten to add. And it should be, it should be very enjoyable. And hopefully some of our esteemed guests will speak of their memories of Sakyadhita in the early days, if we can say 10 years ago was the early days. So, yeah, I mean, I envisage sharing of memories and getting to know people. Anyway, that's the first night.
Yeah, and so the next morning, we're going to have a minibus, and so I'm going to be the driver, and so we'll pick people up so we'll have a meeting point at 9 o'clock at the Mercure in South Bank, and then we'll pick people up, and then I think the first place is Braybrook, isn't it, Helen? We're going to stop at
Yes.
Braybrook.
So we're heading initially to Melbourne's west, to Braybrook, which is on the banks of the Maribyrnong River. Braybrook we're talking about the Quang Minh Vietnamese temple. It's certainly one of the largest Vietnamese temples in Australia, if not the largest. The abbot there is Venerable Phuc, who is, I'm not sure if he'll be there, but if he is, I'm fairly certain we could meet him. But he's the most admirable person. He's done so much social work. He's so caring for all his Vietnamese community, and he reaches out to other communities. Like in Ramadan, he'll organize a huge iftar dinner for the Muslim community, which they share with the Vietnamese Buddhist community. So, and he's built up this quite magnificent temple, and we'll planning a guided tour, if not with Venerable Phuc, with Hien, who was one of our committee members, and she will show us around this magnificent temple and some of the smaller temples, smaller rooms, and the statues along the river. So, and hopefully we'll have morning tea, if not lunch there. So that should be a very enjoyable morning. And then we hop on the bus and head over to
Buddhist Society. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just distracted because I'm being told to plug in. Sharon, can you take over for just 1 second?
So in the afternoon, so we're going to the Buddhist Society and the peaceful land of Joy Gardens. I'm not so sure about that, Helen, because Helen organised that. But anyhow, we'll be just driving the bus, but we'll be going toward. Yeah, go on.
I'm good. Sorry. So we're going out to the Tibetan Buddhist Centre, which is out near Tullamarine. And it's quite a big a block of land, and it has the most beautiful garden, which one of the monks tends or cares for. And in fact, he's written a book, I believe, about the meditative aspects of gardening, or the Buddhist lessons in gardening. And so we'll have time to go around the garden. And then we've been invited to spend some time in one of their meditation temples, I believe. I don't think it's the main one because there's work going on, but one of their temples, and hopefully meet one of their teachers. So that's the Tibetan Buddhist Society at Year Road. And then Sharon?
I thought you were doing a good job then, Helen. And then we'll we'll continue on to Newbury, and so that's where we'll be spending the night. So we're going to be.
So we're going.
Go on. You're more
Yeah,
familiar with the itinerary than me because you
yeah,
did.
I am. Yeah, yeah. So it's about an hour and a half trip from Euroke up to Newbury, which is again on Victoria's west, sort of in the Dalesford area. And we'll be staying there at the Sanctuary of Stillness, which is their retreat centre, which was opened at the beginning of last year by Achan Brahm. So it's very new and it's very well appointed. And so we'll have a Thursday night there. And then after breakfast on Friday morning, we're hopping in the bus again and going to visit a nearby temple, which is the Thich Nhat Hanh Center. I'm not sure if you know the Vietnamese teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, but there's a center there in the countryside that we'll be able to visit and hopefully have lunch there. So that's our plan for Friday. And then we come back and the retreat will begin on Friday evening. And I'll hand over to Venerable Chokyi to tell us about the retreat, but also, Venerable Chokyi, why doing a retreat is important, why you see the significance of retreat.
Oh, well, retreat's always important. Going into silence, and that having time to really to be in that one place. We'll have spent a few days on the road, and so be in one place where we can spend time in contemplative practice. Nothing too onerous, don't worry. I won't start at 3 a.m. Maybe 4. No. we are, so that we can have some sessions together in a meditation practice. I think we all know the value of meditation practice, but in a sort of relaxed way. And the thing about retreat, of course, we're retreating just like we are on the pilgrimage from our day-to-day location, our familiarity of our homes and whatever of our lives. But when we're retreating, it's also the idea is that the main retreat is retreating from our afflictions, our disturbing states of mind, our toxic emotions and so forth. That's the ideal, to have some respite of the blah, 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 blah of our minds, and to be able to come to a place of our true nature, of our stillness, of our own Buddha nature, and that, realize our capacities and who we connect with, who we truly are, not the craziness our mind tells us. And just to be able to do that in a very contemplative and deep and rich way over a couple of days, it would be very, very beautiful to do. And one of the things I was thinking about, because on this pilgrimage, the great fortune is that we're going to places of all the different Buddhist main traditions of we'll be there in the Theravadan retreat center, and the monks and nuns nearby. Will have been in a Tibetan Buddhist center, will have been in a Mahayana center at Quang Minh with the Vietnamese. Hopefully we get to visit, I'm not sure if we're visiting Dalesford school, Dharma school. I'm not sure if that's part of our agenda or not. But, so we've got this sort of rich variety, and we all come back from different Buddhist traditions, so that we come together in our commonality, in our, sort of coming together in one practice, in stillness.
And at Newbury, we're hoping that, we've asked the senior monk there, Venerable Nisarano, to talk to us, and he's I mean,
I met him last
very
year.
caring.
Yeah, he's beautiful.
Sorry?
Beautiful. I met him last year at the Great Stupa.
Yeah.
Very gorgeous, yes.
Yeah, so that should be very special. I'm not sure if one of the nuns will be able to speak to us, but I'm hoping I did put in that request some time ago.
Yeah.
So let's hope that we'll also hear from there's a couple of lovely, at the moment, lovely Theravada nuns there. So it'd be great to hear from them.
Yeah.
So yes. And if you want to go for a little walk, there's a lovely courtyard there that could do some walking meditation. Yeah. So
So,
yeah,
Chokyi,
Chokyi.
Chokyi, are you anticipating we're going to do it in silence? So for those, one day.
As much as we can. I can be persuaded otherwise, but generally not persuaded otherwise. It's nice to do retreat when you're doing retreat, to do retreat.
Yeah.
And because we've really had enough time together to bond, if you like, and share our shared experience and stories and so forth, and just have some quiet time. And then, of course, when we head off again, then we'll be engaging in more conversation and so forth. So it's really wonderful to have silent retreat, mindful, practice mindfulness, kindfulness would be lovely.
And the rooms there are very well designed. So if you're one of those people who likes a special cup of tea or a little bit of chocolate or something like that, there's fridges and you can make your own cup of tea in the room area. So bring along anything that you would like to keep you going. So
sounds great.
I just
perfect.
I just let you know that because otherwise you may not be prepared, but you can bring things. There's little fridges and jugs and do your own thing. But of course, we'll be feeding you, Sharon.
Yes,
So,
yes. But maybe we can accommodate that, because there is only a light supper provided. So there's not a full-on dinner. The idea is that it's
which
going
is the Theravadan. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sharon, but that is the Theravadan tradition.
Yeah.
Correct.
On retreat in Theravadan tradition, they usually only supply a cup of tea and some chocolate or cheese in the evening.
That's
So
correct.
if you need more, bring it. And there's fridges there, and you could have a
Or
piece
we
of
can
toast or
stop
whatever.
perhaps in Dalesford, that morning and, at a Woolworths or something there or Coles,
Everyone's going to be getting their stash.
Yeah. We're only going to be away from society for 1 hour.
2 days.
Not, it's only a couple of days. It's not years,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, but anyhow, people
Okay.
with special dietary concerns, if they need to eat every few hours or whatever, then we'll accommodate that and we'll be able to, go to the supermarket, whatever you need.
Yeah. I don't think it's quite the same at Atisha, but I know there is a little kitchen very nearby the accommodation centre. So Sunday afternoon we'll wrap up the retreat, and it's a very short drive then to Bendigo, about 45 minutes or something, maybe an hour, up to Bendigo, where we're staying. We're very lucky to be staying at the Atisha Centre, which is right next door to the Great Stupa. And Venerable Chokyi, if you could tell us more about the Great
it's amazing.
Stupa and its significance.
Yeah. I mean, well, the Atisha Centre, I've sort of been there over a few decades, and actually the Great Stupa, I've seen it rise from the ground up.
Since the 70s.
Yes, and the Great Stupa, seeing that like from the ground being consecrated. So it's huge. I mean, it's called Great Stupa. It's massive. Of universal compassion, wisdom, I think. Anyway, universal compassion.
Yeah.
Apparently you can see it from outer space, but not have been in outer space. And, I was there doing a retreat last year. We had about a 5-week retreat. And they were at the end, Jada Rinpoche consecrated what's the big mandala on the ceiling inside the Kala Chakra, which is Kala Chakra talks about all of cosmology, and it's a huge, sort of covers everything. It's a massive, massive actually structure in itself. It's got many different levels. So hopefully when we have our tour, we get to go on the different levels, because it's not yet finished, but it's fairly complete these days. The Great Stupa actually has walls these days and roof and and the stupa on top.
And for years and years, it didn't have a roof, so it was very, very open.
And we had retreats when it was very open and freezing and windy and wet and all sorts of things. And also now they have quite nicely established library, which is to be like a place of interfaith research. And it's proper, they've got proper librarians. I mean, it's a proper library.
and it's on Venerable Chokyi, it's all faiths. They're trying to make it all-encompassing Buddhist library. And I can see Roy's with us, so Roy, I will be taking a copy of your book up to the library. So
they are looking for.
Don't worry about that.
Yes, they're most definitely looking for additions, and they have again across the traditions, and they need a lot more resources, but it's very beautifully established. And so the Dalai Lama was there in, was it 2007, I think, when the consecration of the ground and Guru Rinpoche statue, and then it's like the stupas come up around that. And it's been a vast journey along the way, and continues to be.
Every time you go there, there is some new development. And it also has the most, again, a beautiful little garden with representations of every faith, both Christian and Buddhist and Muslim, I believe. Is Muslim?
Yes,
Not
Muslim
sure about that.
and Jewish.
Yeah,
so
and Jewish. So
they were just being installed when I went there. And Francis has been there for a while, and this whole sort of little village that's coming up as an interfaith gathering place. And in the future,
and if you go there, sometimes the Sri Lankans will be at their temple in the garden and having a service, chanting. And so, the people really are identifying and
the
taking it to their hearts.
Sri Lankans have once a month, they do it on the full moon. They go there.
Oh, is that what it is?
The weekend closest to the full moon. And when we were there, they started at 8 a.m. and finished around 2 p.m. So it was quite extensive, just a few prayers. The Tibetans have a time when they go, and, sort of different groups. But they have so many, because Tourism Victoria have it on their must-see places. And they have busloads and busloads of people every day. Tourists come and be there. Which
anyhow, sorry, Chokyi. So anyhow, we are very honoured that Ian Green, who is the overall director, as it was actually, I believe, his concept, his idea to build the Great Stupa.
His land.
His father's land. Yes, family land.
His father's land. So he has agreed to take us on a tour, which I feel is going to be just so fantastic. So have all your questions ready. And he has written a terrific book about the whole journey he's been on, and about the whole experience of the Jade Buddha, which is a whole other story. There's just so much there. So
Monumental. That's the book, Monumental.
You can get hold of the book. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions to ask him. So I think that will pretty much take up all the morning, having Ian show us around the Great Stupa and maybe the garden. We might wander around that ourselves. And then we'll have lunch in the cafe there. And then hopefully in the afternoon, we'll have a look at the nuns' centre. Venerable Sapal, who is the head nun there, has invited us to have a look at this, the nuns' accommodation. So there's accommodation, beautiful accommodation, rooms with ensuite for 7 or 8 nuns, and then they have their communal rooms. And I think it's just a lovely way for, people on the spiritual path. It's got a lovely feeling. I think it's a lovely way for people to be together. And then they've got a separate temple for their practices. So we're lucky that Venerable Sapal, who really designed and was the building project manager for all of this, will show us around.
Yes.
So it should be a very full day at the Great Stupa.
And I think the nunnery, of course, as you mentioned, Venerable Sable designed it. She's a draftswoman. So this is her second nunnery. She designed Chenrezig Nuns Community
Really? Okay.
decades ago,
Yeah.
and so this
Mm.
is the second.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she also made it very mindful as nuns age that it's totally accessible. So each of the rooms has sliding doors to the outside, so you can actually drive right up. There's one that's a completely accessible unit, but the others are all the whole place is accessible. So it's very exciting. That just opened up last year, and then there's of course the monastery as well, Thubten Chokyi monastery as well. So it's a sort of quite a vast property with all these different.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
And we'll be in Atisha, and we might be able to see the temple there that's been a meditation center for decades. And there's a lot of history there now. Anyhow, so we'll spend the evening again at Atisha, Monday evening, and on Tuesday we're planning to take you all to King Lake to Venerable Sunim, Chikwan Sunim's Kien Center. Venerable Chikwan Sunim is she's an Australian nun, but she practices in the Korean tradition. And she has a center up there, which, it's her home, but she has a very, very beautiful meditation hall. And so we'll go up there and hopefully do some meditation in this lovely hall and have lunch, because it's quite a few hours there, and then have a wander around the garden there. And after an hour or so, we'll be back to Melbourne, and that's the end of our pilgrimage. Sharon, did you want to say anything more?
I
Except
guess
join us.
we were we would drop off at around 5 o'clock. So for those who need to go to the airport, don't book anything too early. So I mean, it's probably an 8 o'clock flight would be the earliest you could take. But I think some of the ones from Queensland that I was talking to yesterday, they think they'll go the next morning. They'll leave the next morning. So anyhow, so just don't make your bookings too early in the evening, because anything can happen, I guess. So so around 5 o'clock at South Bank it'll finish, and so we'll be dropping people off at the same place as the pickup.
Right.
Maybe, yeah.
I was just going to go back to the Great Stupa, Chokyi. We've been asked to mention that there will be another event at the Great Stupa, not part of our pilgrimage, but people might like to be aware of it, that on the following Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, the Saturday, the 21st. So I'm going back to the Great Stupa after our pilgrimage. It's a peace.
Tell us about it.
Peace symposium, Peace and Compassion, as part of the celebrations of the 90 years of His Holiness Dalai Lama's being in this world, and called A Year of Compassion. So there's a whole big theme there. And Geshe Laktor, who is the director of the Tibetan Library of Works and Archives, has been for quite some time now. So he will be there. He's quite a very, very knowledgeable teacher, and there are monks and nuns from different traditions. Actually, Venerable Chikwan Sunim is going to be part of
a speaker,
as well as some monks from the different traditions. So Ian wanted it to be, sort of very representative, this symposium for the day, of which there'll be speakers and panels and so forth. On the Saturday, on the 21st. So if people want to sort of extend their journey and come back up to the Stupa
and stay a few days,
stay a few extra days.
Thank you. Yeah. Sharon, anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, as I mentioned, we've got 9 people. We've got room for 3 more, and our numbers are limited by the minibus that we're going to hire. But if people from Melbourne want to drive up to Newbury, they certainly can. Feel free to do that. Take their own car. So so I think there's a price for that. Venerable, we're coming
That's for the retreat, isn't it? So if
for the
people want to join
retreat.
the retreat,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
And as we've got Roy with us, I have to say men are welcome.
Yeah. So, if you would like to come or you can't come, but would still like to make a donation, this is a fundraising. I mean, Sakyadhita, we're a small organisation. We've always, our membership is quite small, so we've got expenses to cover it. So, this is a fundraiser for our organisation. But if anybody can't come, then donations are always welcome, and we'll be sending out a newsletter about that. So come. First option is to come. The second is to donate.
Are there any questions? Has anything or reflections that any of you would like to say before we close? Suzanne, would you like any reflections? No, all good. Okay, well, I just hope we'll see you there. I think it's going to be terrific.
Sorry, just a minute, Helen. We're just going to
Sorry,
close.
Sharon.
I think we're going to close. We've got to close it at least 30 days beforehand. So you've got until perhaps another 3 weeks to make up your mind. But after then we'll have to close so whatever numbers we've got, that's what we'll continue with. But we'll be certainly going.
Suzanne, sorry.
Just a question for Sharon with regard to the minibus, Sharon.
Yes.
I'm imagining you're preferring small ports, small.
Oh, yes, definitely. So this question came up yesterday. I think no more than about 12 kilos, 12 to 15 kilos.
In terms of size?
No, and keep it small. So I'll send out dimensions, but keep it small, particularly if we get another 1 or 2. At the moment, if there's 9, there should be enough, there'll be enough room, but keep your luggage to a minimum. I mean, you don't need dress up or anything. You can wear the same clothes the whole time. So just keep it small, but I'll send out some dimensions with the trip notes.
Yeah. And Venerable Chokyi, any closing comments from you?
Oh, well, I just think it's very exciting, as I said, going to different traditions, temples, and each one of those has so much history to it. And we go to India, we go to Nepal, we go to Indonesia, we go overseas, and here we are right very much in your backyard in Victoria. But there's so much rich history there. I was just thinking about the Tibetan Buddhist Society, coming back to that, because Geshe Lodin, who started that, he was first asked by Lama Yeshe to come and be the teacher at Chenrezig Institute. And then after a few years there, he went down to Victoria and established that. And then the Tibetan Buddhist Society then got established in Sydney and I think in Adelaide as well. So, that there's been a lot of pioneering in many of these places, and that we can learn so much from each other. If I just look at Quang Minh as well, that in the Vietnamese tradition, they visit for Tet, for the Lunar New Year, they visit 10 temples in a day, 10 temples in a day, and they spend like on Saturday and then Sunday another 10 temples. I don't know where they find all these temples, but there you go. We're just tip of the iceberg. So it's going to be really wonderful, very diverse, and we'll have a wonderful journey together.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chokyi. Sharon, any closing comments?
No, just that, we'd like another 1 or 2, but however, failing that, we'd like a donation for our lovely organisation. So
to keep us going.
I have run a lot of pilgrimages in many countries, so I'm quite familiar with how it all works, and you'll be in good hands with Venerable Chokyi, Helen, and myself.
Thank you. And thank you for organising this. It was your idea and it's come to fruition. So thank you for that. And thank you, Venerable Chokyi, Suzanne, as well, for participating and for your time today. And thank you all for your attendance. I really appreciate it. And to Sharon for the recording, which may go up on our YouTube channel. And it's our 10th anniversary. We hope to bring you some more webinars during the year as we continue this celebration. And as Sharon mentioned, it's a time of year we ask people to renew their membership. It means so much and really enables us to keep going. We're just a very small organisation. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who are members. And if you're not a member, think about joining us. And but we really appreciate those. So thank you everyone for joining us, and enjoy your afternoon and your evening. And I would just request Venerable Chokyi to wrap our webinar up with a blessing. Venerable Chokyi.
Okay. Dewadi Nudruda Lama Sange Druguni Drowachi Gyamalu Pade Salango Pasha Chantrup Sencho Grimposhe Maki Panam Gekuchi Gepanyam Pame Payan Kogne Gundu Pewashu.
Thank you, Chokyi.